Well, welcome to class. My name is Neil Fogarty. I'm going to be your tour guide today as we start our venture into Management 253, Creativity and Innovation. The name of your textbook, as you know, is called Yes You Can. And it's about, yes, you can innovate, and we're going to be talking about innovation. And what we're going to be doing today in today's lecture is we're going to be taking a look at just chapter 1. Basically, it's a chapter saying to begin. It's a short chapter. It's not going to be a long lecture, but there's some introductory buzzwords you want to take note of. We want to set things up with regard to a model we're going to be using and some of the things associated with that. So let's get started. Under this, I'm going to have, let's see, two major topics. Yeah, just two major topics. I'm going to have an introduction. I'm going to talk about understanding the model that we have. So let's start off with the introduction. If you think about it, the world today is just filled with change, more so today than ever before. I mean, think about it. How technology is changing things. There's a new version of this, that, and the other. It seems like every couple of minutes. It's not quite that fast, but there's quite a lot of new versions of this, that, and the other. There's also new things that come onto the market, etc. Your interactions with others change constantly, particularly with social media, whatever. So this is a world of change, probably, again, more change now than ever before. And if you think about it, as we look at your careers coming up in the future, do you really think that the amount of change we're having now is going to diminish or even stay the same? Or do you think it's going to continue to increase? We're going to have more and more change as time goes on. I'm guessing that. In fact, your author's thinking that we're going to see a dramatic increase in change and the rate of change as time goes on. So you folks are going to be looking at that in the careers that you're going to have and your futures that you have. So the second point that she has under this introduction, the first one's talking about the world of change. The second point, she says, well, okay, in that type of world where there's change left and right and up and down and fast-paced or whatever, there's a challenge. And that challenge you're going to have both personally as well as in any business that you have, is you have to create new ideas of value. Things are changing. You can't use the old ideas. They don't fit anymore. So what's going to fit? New ideas. So you have to create new ideas. But is it any idea? No, you need to have an idea that has some sort of value. The value might be monetary value and financial value. It might be a value with regard to your customers see value, your employees see value, some sort of quantitative value or whatever. But these new ideas, they just can't be an idea, let's tie two straws together and it looks pretty. We have to have some sort of value that's going to be created by these new ideas that we have. And along that line then, if we need new ideas, we need new thinking, we need new solutions, we need you to basically look at this concept of being creative and being innovative. The third point that the author mentions here is she has a buzzword for you, one that we'll be using a lot throughout the term, and it's actually, to some degree, part of the name of her book. And the buzzword is the word innovator. And you can think of, and if we were in class today, I'd ask you, how would you define innovator? Who's an innovator? What's an innovator? What makes someone an innovator? She has a couple of points that she makes here with regard to this. She says that an innovator is a pioneer. Sounds good to me, but you think about, go back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, the pioneers are, getting in wagons and on ships and everything else and heading into places nobody else was before. So it sounds to me, if I'm going into some place like that, I better be able to come up with new ideas. I'm going to run into things I never saw before, and how am I going to handle them? So I better be innovative with regard to it. So someone who's going into these new worlds and making change or whatever, certainly that's a pioneer, that's an innovator. She says that innovators, still under this topic, subpoint of innovators, she says innovators bring the new and the creative. Innovators bring the new and the creative. They bring something that nobody thought of before. They use creativity and they come up with something, oh, wow, look at this. This is really cool, never saw it before. She said also that innovators, you have diverse skills and diverse ways of thinking. Innovators tend to be a little bit different than everybody else. And in order to be an innovator, usually it's not that you just have one skill set. You normally have a bunch of skills. How do I innovate? I pull all these things together, all these strands of knowledge or whatever. So normally I have diverse skills, and normally I might think a little bit differently. I mean, I know as one of your labs, you were supposed to take a look at some videos that we had on innovators, including Steve Jobs. And if you think about it, whereas Steve Jobs did all sorts of amazing things, if you think about it, didn't he think differently? You know, if you look at, when Steve Jobs started, he wasn't thinking like all the other tech people, the people at IBM and Xerox, and HP or whatever. He was thinking differently. So again, an innovator, diverse skills, different ways of thinking. Another point about this concept of innovator and a pioneer, and an innovator is someone who's able to find practical applications for everyday situations. Practical applications for everyday situations. If you think about it, you're going to work, like today where I'm living, there was snow, not an immense snow, but snow, really, really cold. A lot of the schools closed, a lot of the roads are awful, some roads are actually closed, etc. And if you're trying to get to work or whatever, and the regular way to get to work is closed, you've got to be innovative. You've got to come up with something different. You have to find a new practical application for an everyday situation. And she has another buzz phrase here for you, one that you'd want to keep in mind. She calls these people who come up with practical applications for everyday situations, she calls that day-to-day innovation. Day-to-day innovation. Today I'm thinking about this and I come up with that idea. Tomorrow I'm thinking about that, I'll come up with a different idea. Day-to-day innovation. So that's the third point under the introduction. Let's go to the fourth point. She says something that I think you might disagree with. In fact, until I read her book and I started teaching it, I didn't think about what she's about to say. She says that innovation requires a process. Innovation requires a process. It's not you're sitting there and all of a sudden the light goes off, there's an epiphany from the heavens above or something like that, and lightning strikes you and bang, you see something like that. She says, generally speaking, innovation requires a process, particularly innovation in work. And think about this, where you're going to be working in the future, in all likelihood, you're going to be very successful in your career, you're going to be an executive, a manager, a leader, etc. like that. So not only do you want to be innovative, you want to make sure that your employees who report to you are innovative. And she says that to do that, to have this innovation, this environment of innovation, a business where there's lots of innovation, it requires a process, and she has one. She has, I'm sure there are lots of different processes, but she uses one in particular of her own making, and she calls it the 6 eyes model. The 6 eyes, and that's not eye this way, it's the letter I, the 6 eyes model. And she basically says that this process of innovation in her model, the 6 eyes, has basically 6 stages to it, 6 stages. And she says all the stages, they're linked by an overarching purpose. An overarching purpose. Purpose has a lot to do with regard to each of the stages. The stages are linked to purpose. We're going to take a look at her model in just a little bit. And she says all the stages are linked to an overarching purpose. Why are we doing this? Why are we being innovative? What problem are we solving? Why all of a sudden are we doing things differently? What's our purpose? So she says innovation requires a process. It's the 6 eyes model that she uses. Her process, the 6 eyes model, the 6 stages. And she says that all these stages are linked by an overarching purpose. And I said just a few moments, we'll show the model and you're going to see how this works. So let's go to the 5th and the final point under this introduction. I said the 2 major topics here, introduction and understanding the model. The 5th and the final point under her introduction are some more core definitions. And she's going to provide you at this point with 4 buzzwords, etc., that you want to take a look at. First, she defines the word innovation. Innovation. She says innovation is creating value from new ideas. Innovation is creating value from new ideas. If I asked you in class, what's innovation? I would think that many of you, like me, would come up, oh, you've come up with this new idea, you thought outside the box or whatever. But she changes that a little bit. It's not just having a new idea. Innovation is creating value from new ideas. Again, notice we talked about value earlier here. Your new idea, your new concept, your innovative concept, your creative concept or whatever should create value. And again, it doesn't have to be just financial. It can be other types of value as well. The second core definition that she has is the word skill. The word skill. She defines skill as the ability to do something well. The ability to do something well. I know a friend of mine who is an electrician, and he has an immense ability to figure out how to fix electrical problems, how to upgrade things, how to do this and that, etc., to get the electricity to power things and all this. He has an immense amount of ability with regard to electronics and electrical things of that nature. He certainly has skill. Let's go to the third of the core definitions she has, and it's the word behavior. Behavior. Now, before I go on, a question I have for you is, does your behavior, does the behavior of your employees, etc., does behavior have anything to do with being innovative and being creative? She defines behavior as it's a range of visible actions, made by people towards their environment. A range of visible actions made by people towards their environment. Now, I'm not so sure if I asked you before I gave you this definition, how would you define behavior? If you define it that way, I don't think I would have if somebody had asked me that. But you want to keep her idea here. Behavior, it's a range of visible actions made by people towards our environment. We see how people behave. Visible actions, a range of visible actions towards our environment. So you see, it's a great day today. In fact, I was talking to my older son today, and he got some good news on a couple of different fronts, fairly important fronts in his life, and his visible actions today. He's smiling from ear to ear. He's happy. He's being very, very gracious with everybody he talks to. He's making them smile as well. So it's a range of visible actions made by people towards their environment. His environment today probably couldn't be any better, so we can see his behavior. The fourth and the final of the core definitions that she mentions is one that we're going to use a lot this term. Literally every chapter she brings this word up. And when we're all done with her book, we're going to have an entire class based on this particular buzzword. And the buzzword is mindset. Mindset. It's one word. I've seen people write it as two or hyphenate it. It's basically one word. So again, my question to you, does someone's mindset have anything to do with how creative they are today, how innovative they are today? And she defines mindset as a set of attitudes that shape thinking. A set of attitudes that shape thinking. Let me give you an example of this. I don't know if you have had a class in organizational behavior yet. I know here at Penn State it's called Management 326. And one of the things that we talk about in Management 326 is we talk about the fact that there are a number of studies that have been done on managers and leaders or whatever. And one of them, a study done by a fellow, I think by McGregor, said that with regard to managers and leaders as well, but his was particularly on managers, there are basically two types of managers. There's a theory X manager and there's a theory Y manager. A theory X manager believes that his or her employees are lazy, they really don't want to work, they're not committed, and to get them to do anything, you got to be there all the time, kick them in the butt, constantly scold them and urge them to do better and whatever. Again, employees are, well, they're not rascals or scoundrels, but they're not really great people. The other type of manager under McGregor's theory is a theory Y manager, who believes, people and employees can be great. They can be really motivated and they can be committed, under the right environment. You might have to set certain parameters and don't necessarily let them go on their own without some sort of parameters or whatever. But indeed, they can be motivated, they can be, hard workers and accomplish a lot, etc. So I want you to think about that. Look at how the attitudes of those two different types of managers is different. Theory X manager has a certain type of attitude, a theory Y manager a certain type of attitude. So let me ask you, do you think that those attitudes would have anything to do or impact the amount of innovation and creativity that they have personally and that their organization, their people, the people they're managing are going to have? Do you think that that mindset has anything to do with innovation and creativity. So we're going to come back to this concept. We're going to come back to it a lot. So again, the core definitions: innovation, skill, behavior, and mindset. That finishes up the first major topic of the two. Again, it's not a long lecture today. The first major topic, and that was just an introduction. And we have 5 key points there about change, the challenge, what an innovator is, the innovation process, and then some core definitions. Let's go to the second major topic under Chapter 1. Again, Chapter 1 is just to begin. The second major topic is understanding the 6 eyes model. The 6 eyes model. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause for a moment, and we're going to put up a slide to show you a picture of the 6 eyes model, this model that she talks about throughout her book. And in your book, you're going to find, I think if you just open up the cover page, I think it's printed on maybe the inside cover, etc., that you're going to have. Let me show you the slide. It's also on our Canvas web. Now, if you look at that model, you're going to see that that model has at least 6 components. So under this section, I have 4 major points I want to raise. And the first is some components, the components of the model. So again, second major topic for today, understanding 6 eyes model. First of the major points I'm going to talk about, the components of the model. Well, if you take a look at the components, there are 6 major ones. There's some others too, but there's 6 major ones. They all start with I. If you take a look at them, you have, and I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to go clockwise through these. You have identify, you have ignite, investigate, invest, implement, and improve. Again, identify, ignite, investigate, invest, implement, improve. And then if you notice too, there's something in the special location right in the middle called purpose. But let's take a look at those 6 components, the 6 eyes components. Let's just quickly mention these because we're going to cover each of these in great depth as we go through this course. Identify, you want to identify opportunities. Hey, there's an opportunity here, this new idea that I have, and wow, look at this, if we did this, etc., look at what can happen here. You want to identify opportunities. Ignite, that talks about igniting ideas. Okay, there's a problem here. We've got to solve it. How can I ignite ideas? How can I get you thinking about how to solve it? How, once I get that, can I ignite you to be interested in doing things here? Ignite. We want to ignite ideas, ignite perhaps interest and enthusiasm in that. The next of the eyes, the third eye, investigate. Once we have an idea of either our potential solution, this really creative idea that we came up, or maybe a couple potential solutions, we want to do the next I, that's investigate. Investigate. We want to investigate the problem that we have, investigate the solutions we came up with. We want to probably, with regard to the solutions, prototype them and test them, maybe do some research, etc. We want to investigate. We want to, before we act, we want to do some thinking, etc. that we have. That's investigate. The next I, the fourth I, the word invest. When we talk about invest, now think about, we're business majors, right? So we think about investing, oh, we got to put money in it, financial investment. Certainly that's true, but when we talk about invest, we want to find within ourselves the courage to invest, the time, the money, the sweat equity that we have, and other things into this. We want to find our own motivation to invest, and we also want to be able to persuade others to back our ideas to invest, to join our team, to join our crusade, etc. And it might be financially, oh, put in some money. It might be put in some time. Hey, would you help me out with this? It might be some suggestion, some advice. It might just be rooting us on and cheering us on. We want them to invest in this. We want them to help us along, because we probably can't do this on our own. But certainly we also want to get ourselves to invest in it. The fifth of the I's that we have is implement. Now that we have the idea, we've done some studying, we've got people interested, and let's turn our idea into action. An idea standing alone really doesn't have much value. Where we give it value is doing something with it, acting on it. We have to implement, we have to execute, we have to make things happen, and we have to create value. And the sixth and final I that we have, improve. Once we're all done, we've got it all set, and hopefully it worked or whatever, but even we want to find a way to improve it. Can we make this better? Next time this happens, are we going to do the same way, or are we going to do something different, etc.? What we have to do is find a way to improve, how to optimize what we have, and how to learn from it, and to get better as we go forward. So that's the 6 Eyes model, and one of the things I suggest that you look at is I want you to keep in mind that right in the center of the model is something important. Also keep in mind there are little arrows that kind of go both ways, etc. Here, let's talk a little about this model. So the second major topic of the 3 of the 4 under this concept of the 6 Eyes model. So let's take a look at some key points. One of the things that she says about this, a key point, is notice that her model is circular and it's not linear. She has a couple of thoughts here with regard to that. I don't know if I agree fully with it, but there's certain value to it, certain reason. She says because it's a circle and not linear, you don't actually have an official start point and official end point. It's a circle. Hop on any point, hop off any point. It's a circle. There's no real start or end, at least according to her. Although more often than not, people do start with the I for identifying. So again, she says it's circular, so that has something to do with where do you get on board? Is there a stop? Is there an end? And another thing too about it being circular is she says you can go back and forth. A circle can spin forward, it can spin backward. You can go back and forth. And you usually find that when you get to one of these stages and there's a problem, you might go back to the prior stage and make some changes and start up again, etc. So you can go back and forth. Oftentimes, there's not as much back and forth as you might think, but you certainly can. So again, it's a circular model. The second point that she mentions is something I've said a couple of times now. Purpose is the center of the model. The purpose is the center of the model. It's an anchor. It's a common theme. Why are you doing this? If you lose sight of purpose, if you don't know why you're doing this, you can get off on any of these eyes and go off on a huge tangent. It doesn't matter. You're not really going to accomplish anything because you've lost sight of your purpose. Your purpose helps you to come back, find your focus, helps you to give you direction, etc. Purpose is at the center. And it's at the center because purpose should influence each of these. When you get into all these different stages with yourself and with your employees, never lose sight of your purpose. For example, if you're on this, if you're at the stage on implement, you should keep going, well, why am I doing this in the first place? Or if you're on the stage for ignite, why am I doing this in the first place? Keep in mind this concept of purpose. Another thing that she mentions, the third point of her couple, she has 5, 6 points or whatever here. She says that each point, they identify, ignite, whatever, each of the eyes, is linked to purpose. Notice those 2 arrows, small triangles or whatever, that kind of go like this in 2 different directions. And those stand for the words process and culture. Process and culture. Process and culture somehow helps us to tie together each of these stages with the concept of purpose. There is that relationship, and she says it oftentimes has something to do with process, how you're doing it, and the culture of your organization and of your people. The fourth point that she mentions is although this identify stage is oftentimes the starting stage, the first stage, again, keep in mind, she says a circle. You can hop on at any point. I've used this model in a lot of different classes, and I see how certainly most people would start, I would start with identify, but she says you can jump on at different points. And I suppose that in your organization, you might already have some of these things done, and they ask you to jump in and will you help us to fix it? We've got the idea, can you help us to implement it or whatever? So again, usually identify as a starting stage, but again, she says it's a circle, it can start at any stage. The fifth point that she has about this model, she says she likes this model because of a whole thing, a lot of things. Now, let's think about it. She thought of it, right? So of course she likes it. But she says she likes it for a lot of things, including one of the reasons she likes it. She says it kind of mirrors the way that we normally think on an everyday process that we have. We usually, identify a problem, try to, ignite interest in solutions that we have. We investigate things, come up with an idea. This is what we're going to do. We try it, and then invest our time, our money, our enthusiasm, our sweat equity. We then start acting on it, and then once we're done, Hopefully we look and say what worked, what didn't work, because the next time we're going to do this, let's do it better. So it looks like, all of these have something to do with the way that we normally think. And the concept of purpose should be our overriding uh, motivator or overriding compass that we're using. So I guess it does kind of mirror the way that we think. And the sixth and the final point that she makes under her key points, and I think this is very important for you, the main reason we're using this model is not just to help you become more innovative and creative, hopefully it will, but this class, Creativity, Innovation, and Business, one of its main purposes is to help you as a manager and a leader, as an executive, to get the people in your organization, to get your organization being creative and innovative. So this system that she has, this six eyes model, might help you to do that. It might help you to manage this innovation process. Again, remember, she says it's a process. Knowing this model, you don't follow it in and out, remember every step of it. Knowing this model might help you to better manage that innovation, that creativity process that you have. Well, let's go to the third of the 3 or 4 points I want to mention here about this chapter. And it's called 6 mindsets. Remember we said one of the buzzwords we had was the word mindset? She says that there are all sorts of mindsets that are related to her 6 stages. But she particularly thinks certain mindsets are better related or best related to various stages. So let's take a look at that. I'm first going to pop up a slide for you to see this, and then I'm going to talk to you about it. So let's take a look at that. So let's look at the slide. Let's look at her mindsets and the stages. She says that with regard to the I for identify, she thinks that the best mindset of all the different mindsets is curiosity. You want to be curious. If you want to come up with something new, you want to be curious and check things. I remember that one of the young ladies I had in one of my classes a number of years ago, she came from a family of 10 siblings. Well, she had 9 siblings. She had 5 brothers and 4 sisters or whatever. Family of 10. And her father worked all the time. Her mother worked a lot, wasn't at home a lot. She was the oldest. So one of the things that she ended up doing is she ended up kind of becoming a de facto parent for eventually her 9 siblings that she had. And with her parents being gone, and they weren't always available by phone, this was in a time even before cell phones were invented, she couldn't pick up the phone and call mom and dad, say, oh, geez, this happened or that happened, what am I supposed to do? So what she ended up doing is she became very curious about life. She became very curious about what made things happen, whether it was between people or mechanically or whatever. And she was the type of person, for example, if you gave her some sort of little contraption, little mechanical device that works this way or that way, one of the things she would usually do, and she said it drove her parents nuts, is, she'd play with it and do whatever as a kid, but she'd also take it apart. She'd try to figure out why does this work? Now, she said sometimes she could put it back together again, sometimes she didn't, but she always learned from it. This was someone who was curious. And, if you think about it, if you have curiosity and you're always looking at how do things work and what can you do, probably helps you to come up with answers, too. So she says the mindset she best associates with or thinks associates closest with identifies curiosity. With regard to the next of the I's, ignite. She says the best of these mindsets is creativity. Creativity, you want to be creative, etc., come up with new ideas and whatever. You want to ignite yourself, you want to ignite others, etc. I think that's a great mindset. I think part of the mindset of ignite is probably being able to motivate others and things like that. But she says creativity, so let's go with it. The next of the I's that she has, the third I, is investigate. She says the best mindset for investigate is critical. Always think this isn't going to work. How am I going to fix it? Be critical of ideas. Don't easily adopt things. Try things out. Will this work? Will it not? Be critical, etc. As you investigate. You want to constantly ask questions. I know as children, one of the things that you see a lot of kids, really little kids, those who are toddlers and barely able to walk and talk or whatever, they ask questions all the time. What's that? What's that, etc. And when mom and dad give them an answer, they're just like, oh, what do you mean? That type of thing. And they want to try things out, right, with their hands or whatever. So she says, when you investigate and you start looking and doing research or whatever into things, you want to be critical. Be critical. The next of the mindset she has goes to the I for invest. You've got to get yourself to invest your time, money, interest, sweat equity. Try and get others to invest to help you out. And she says a perfect mindset for that, of all the many, she says, is courage. Courage. And I guess to a degree you need courage. Go and try to ask somebody to give you money for something. Go and ask somebody to give you time. Go and ask somebody to give you, some advice or whatever. Just even to go out and ask them takes courage. And on your own, do I really want to do this? Is it worth it? Is this going to work? Should I actually put some of my own money in this, my own time? You really need courage to invest, and courage to encourage others to invest as well. The next I is implement. She says the perfect mindset for implement is commitment. Commitment. Let's get this done. Let's work through it. Let's try to turn this idea into action. I tell you what, you might have heard the phrase, the devil's in details. Oftentimes you run into details where you take this really grand idea that you have, and then you try to make it work. All of a sudden, as you try to make it work, you run into all sorts of troubles. You don't have this resource, you don't have that, these two things don't work as you thought, etc., like that. If you have commitment, if you're passionate about this, and you'll continue on. You'll run into these barriers, but generally speaking, you're going to continue on. You'll be committed. But if you're not committed, the heck with it. I'll leave this idea, I'll go on to something else, etc. So in order to implement, she says you have to be committed. Makes sense. And then the last of the mindsets goes to the last of the stages, the last I, the sixth I, the I for improve. She says that requires a mindset, improve requires a mindset of being clever, You just did everything, and you sweat bullets trying to do this, trying to figure things out. There were troubles, and you solved all these problems, etc. And you finally got done with it. Well, you probably think I got done with it. Wow, look at me, I'm a wonderful person. This is a great idea. Well, now, how do I improve on it? I did the best I could already. How am I supposed to improve on the best I already did? You have to be clever. You have to come up with better ways to make the widget, better ways to make the bread, and better ways to make a wheel or whatever. You have to be clever. So again, the 6 mindsets: curiosity, creativity, critical, courage, commitment, and clever. Notice they all start with C's, and I don't think that was a mistake. Those are the 3 major points under this topic that we have about the model itself, which was the second major topic that we're looking at today. There is kind of a 4th topic, and that is in your textbook. If you go towards the end, and you should read all the stuff at the end, there's always stuff at the end, and you get done with the text and the heck with the stuff at the end, probably not a bad idea in this class to read, at least skim it, right, to get an idea. And one of the things you're going to find at the end of chapter 1 is something that's called the 6 Eyes Assessment Questionnaire. The 6 Eyes Assessment Questionnaire. Depending on how you bought your book, if you bought it directly from the publisher, they should have given you some sort of number or something like that. And if you did buy it directly from the publisher, and if you did get this special number, you can go online to www.yesyoucaninnovate.com, and with your proof of purchase, that number that you need, you can take this questionnaire that's going to ask you questions about yourself, and it's going to give you an idea. Are you an identifier, an igniter, an investigator, an investor, an implementer, an improver? Where do I have strengths? Where do I have weaknesses in these? It'll give you a little bit of an idea. It's a kind of a self-assessment. So if you can, do it. I mean, it's not graded. I'm not looking to have you answer to whatever and tell me how it turned out. It's just something for yourself. Probably not a bad idea to do. So that finishes up chapter 1. And chapter 1, as I said, not a very intense chapter. A couple of points, two major topics that we've looked at, and a couple of subpoints under each of those. I hope it helped to set a foundation for where we're going, particularly that model, because that's what we're going to be using this term. If you have any questions about it, let me know. For most of my classes, you have a special lab, a really, really cool lab. Most of the students really like this lab coming up. You definitely want to take a look at at our Canvas website and go to Files and then go to Labs and then go to Lab 1, and that will tell you about this lab. It's a team-based lab, and it's one that I think you're going to have fun with. If you like, most of my students who've done it, you're probably going to enjoy this lab. I hope that you do too. With that said and done, I'm done. If you have any questions, certainly don't hesitate to let me know. I hope you enjoyed our tour through the first of these chapters. Stay tuned. We'll be getting into the rest of the chapters very soon. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you later.